Disney's bold endeavor to reimagine the iconic fairy tale Snow White has spiraled into one of the most contentious cinematic controversies in recent memory, shaking the foundations of Hollywood and sparking fierce debates among audiences, critics, and industry insiders. The film, envisioned as a vibrant revival of a beloved classic, instead plummeted into a financial and cultural abyss, marking a rare and spectacular misstep for a studio renowned for its storytelling magic. At the epicenter of this storm is Rachel Zegler, a gifted Latina actress previously celebrated for her standout performance in West Side Story, cast as the titular princess. Yet, her portrayal has ignited a firestorm, with many questioning whether she captured the warmth, grace, and timeless charm that defines Snow White in the collective imagination. The film's box office performance was nothing short of catastrophic, a stark contrast to the lofty expectations set by Disney's storied legacy. Opening weekend saw a modest $43 million in ticket sales, a figure that, while initially viewed with cautious optimism, quickly unraveled into a narrative of decline. By the second week, earnings nosedived by nearly 70%, leaving theaters across the globe eerily deserted. The global box office total struggled to surpass $120 million, a paltry sum for a high-budget production bearing the Disney name. Online, the film faced a brutal reckoning, with IMDb flooded by an avalanche of negative reviews, amassing a staggering number of user ratings that coalesced into a shockingly low score, cementing its place as one of the most infamous flops in modern cinema. Compounding the drama, a rival adaptation, Snow White and the Evil Queen, emerged as a formidable challenger. Spearheaded by Brett Cooper, a conservative YouTuber and commentator affiliated with the Daily Wire. This alternative version embraced the original fairy tale's core themes of kindness, love, and inner beauty, deliberately steering clear of contemporary political overtones. The stark contrast between the two projects has deepened an ideological rift among fans, with Cooper's approach resonating strongly with those who yearn for a faithful retelling of the 1937 classic, while Zegler's supporters advocate for reinterpreting fairy tales to align with modern values and perspectives. This clash has transformed Snow White from a shared cultural touchstone into a battleground for competing visions of storytelling. The fallout from Disney's failure extends far beyond disappointing ticket sales, reverberating through the entertainment industry and prompting soul-searching about the art of adapting cherished stories. Industry analysts view this debacle as a watershed moment, urging studios to reconsider how they balance innovation with respect for timeless narratives. Some observers have drawn parallels between the film's struggles and broader cultural shifts, suggesting that an overemphasis on politically charged messaging may alienate audiences seeking the escapism and wonder that fairy tales traditionally provide. Behind the scenes, reports of friction on set have added another layer of complexity, with whispers of discord between Zegler and co-star Gal Gadot reportedly stemming from their divergent stances on global political issues. These tensions, while not the sole cause of the film's woes, have fueled speculation about a troubled production process. Zegler's public response to the film's failure has further intensified the controversy. Rather than acknowledging potential shortcomings in the project itself, she has pointed to external factors, notably the competing Daily Wire adaptation, as a source of market confusion. This stance has drawn sharp criticism from those who expected a more introspective approach, with many arguing that deflecting blame fails to address the deeper issues that plague the film. Meanwhile, Cooper's project has positioned itself as a deliberate counterpoint, celebrating the original Snow White's values without what some perceive as unnecessary modern embellishments. Cooper has been vocal about her commitment to preserving the story's essence, framing her film as a love letter to the classic tale's enduring appeal. Social media has become a volatile arena for this cultural tug-of-war, with fans of both actresses rallying behind their respective visions. Hashtags championing Zegler or Cooper frequently trend, and online communities have formed, passionately debating the merits of each approach. While both actresses have publicly called for civility, urging their supporters to engage respectfully, the discourse has occasionally veered into toxic territory, reflecting the broader societal polarization that this controversy has tapped into. The debate hinges on a fundamental question: should fairy tale adaptations remain anchored in their timeless roots, or must they evolve to reflect contemporary sensibilities? For Zegler's defenders, updating Snow White is a natural extension of the story's historical evolution, a way to make it relevant for today's diverse audiences. Cooper's supporters, conversely, argue that the tale's universal appeal lies in its simplicity and moral clarity, and that excessive modernization risks diluting its magic. Disney's Snow White attempted to straddle this divide, capitalizing on nostalgia for the original while introducing bold reinterpretations. Critics argue this hybrid approach backfired, alienating both traditionalists and progressive viewers. The film's perceived inconsistency, honoring the classic while subverting its core elements, left audiences feeling disconnected from the story they loved. In contrast, Cooper's version has been praised for its unwavering commitment to the source material, though some caution that its overtly traditional stance may limit its appeal in a polarized cultural landscape. Both projects, in their own ways, underscore the challenges of adapting stories that hold deep emotional resonance for generations of fans. The Snow White saga has also illuminated shifting power dynamics in Hollywood. Historically, major studios like Disney held near total control over how classic tales were presented to modern audiences. However, the rise of independent players like the Daily Wire signals a new era of competition, one driven not just by production quality, but by fundamentally different worldviews. Disney's stock price has reportedly felt the ripple effects, with some analysts linking the studio's recent creative decisions to a growing perception of divisiveness in its content. For younger audiences, this rivalry presents a novel and complex reality. Childhood stories are no longer universal, but contested spaces, shaped by competing ideological frameworks. Parents now face the added task of navigating not just which films their children watch, but which values those stories impart. The industry implications are profound. The Snow White debacle has sparked a reckoning about the balance between creative freedom and commercial viability. Studios like Disney aim to appear culturally relevant, but they also need their big-budget projects to appeal to a broad audience. When these goals clash, as they did here, the results can be disastrous. For Zegler, the backlash poses significant career challenges. Her association with the film, coupled with polarizing public comments, has led to speculation that studios may hesitate to cast her in major roles moving forward. Cooper, too, faces a precarious path. While her film has garnered a dedicated following, its cultural positioning may pigeonhole her as a figurehead in ongoing culture wars, potentially limiting her mainstream appeal. Looking ahead, the Snow White controversy serves as a cautionary tale for filmmakers. The hard lesson is that chasing trends or leaning too heavily into divisive themes can backfire, while a focus on authentic, entertainment-driven storytelling may better resonate with audiences. The industry is now at a crossroads, with some predicting a shift toward narratives that prioritize the timeless qualities of fairy tales, love, hope, and resilience, over transient political messaging. Future adaptations will inevitably be viewed through the lens of this debate, with filmmakers forced to weigh whether updating classic stories is worth the risk of alienating their core audience. The cultural stakes are equally high. Snow White, once a symbol of innocence and unity, has become a lightning rod for broader tensions over representation, tradition, and the role of entertainment in society. Some industry observers note that the extreme reactions to both versions reflect audience fatigue with films that prioritize agendas over escapism. A veteran producer, speaking anonymously, remarked that audiences can sense when they're being preached to rather than entertained, urging studios to prioritize storytelling over moralizing. This sentiment is echoed in online discussions, where fans express a longing for fairy tales to reclaim their role as shared cultural treasures rather than ideological battlegrounds. The timing of this controversy, unfolding during a deeply polarized cultural moment, has amplified its impact, with debates raging over diversity, traditional values, and the purpose of art. Snow White has inadvertently become a symbol in these larger battles. The financial repercussions extend beyond the films themselves, with Disney facing scrutiny over its creative direction, and the Daily Wire positioning itself as a viable alternative for audiences seeking different narratives. For younger generations, this saga creates an unusual landscape where bedtime stories are no longer simple but fraught with competing meanings, challenging the notion of fairy tales as unifying forces. Despite their creative differences, both Zegler and Cooper have sought to steer the conversation toward constructive dialogue, discouraging the more vitriolic rhetoric from their respective fan bases. Industry veterans draw parallels to historic Hollywood rivalries, noting that while competing projects are not new, the ideological chasm between these Snow White adaptations is unprecedented. The outcome of Cooper's film, still pending wider release, will likely influence how studios approach future adaptations. A strong performance could signal a market shift toward traditional storytelling, while mutual failure might suggest that the controversy has exhausted audience interest in the property altogether. What remains undeniable is that the Snow White legacy has been forever altered. This once gentle tale of a princess, 7 dwarves, and a poisoned apple now carries the weight of a cultural referendum, forcing the industry to confront uncomfortable questions about audience expectations, casting decisions, and the delicate art of updating classics. As one viral online comment poignantly noted, the irony of a story about finding the fairest of them all, sparking Hollywood's ugliest fight, is not lost on anyone. Whether this controversy ultimately paves the way for more thoughtful, inclusive adaptations, or further entrenches divisions among viewers remains an open question. For now, the battle over Snow White's soul underscores a timeless truth. Even the most enchanting stories can ignite the fiercest debates when their essence is at stake.